Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Monday, February 3rd. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Society these days can often feel divided, like there's nothing binding us together.
I think a lot of people are on edge just all the time, and it doesn't matter if it's a town that only has 13,000 people or a town that has 1,300 people.
But in one Sierra Nevada community, we'll tell you about an unexpected landmark that did manage to create some unity. But first, these headlines. Rivers in Tulare County were flowing higher than usual this weekend after an order by President Trump to release water to Southern California. The Kauai and Tule rivers are typically dry this time of year because irrigation demands are low. But the Army Corps of Engineers complied with the order by releasing water from two Tulare County reservoirs. The decision sent water managers scrambling. They convinced the Army Corps to reduce their flows to avoid potential flooding. Trump repeatedly has claimed that more California water should reach LA to fight wildfires. But none of the rivers stemming from Tulare County reservoirs reach LA. The Trump administration, in its first week, cleared the way for immigration enforcement officers to enter schools. Cap Radio's Megan Myskovsky reports that California lawmakers are working on new state-level restrictions to prevent that.
Federal immigration agents currently need a judicial warrant or consent to enter most school grounds. Blake Nordahl is a professor specializing in immigration law at McGeorge School of Law. He says two bills filed in December by California legislators could actually make state policies related to that more clear at a time when federal policy seems to be in flux.
Right now, we're in sort of uncharted territory and confusing times. And of course, school administrators are doing the best they can to protect kids and provide quality education. And I think that these bills help clarify for school administrators what is the law in California.
One bill authored by Democratic Assemblymember Al Muratsuchi from Torrance would require immigration agents to have permission from school district or county leadership, a valid ID, and a statement of purpose in addition to the warrant. It would also restrict them to areas where students aren't present. Another from Long Beach Democratic Senator Lena Gonzalez would require a judicial warrant for agents to access schools, records, or information about a student, their family, or school staff. Nordahl stressed that there are not currently widespread incidents of immigration enforcement officials entering schools. In Sacramento, I'm Megan Myskovsky.
A nationwide protest calling for a, quote, day without immigrants is being held today. The protest encourages people to stay home and refrain from spending or working. It's unclear what the impact of this work stoppage could mean for places like the San Joaquin Valley, but several local organizations and residents plan to take part. This effort comes as a response to anti-immigrant actions being taken by the Trump administration. Leaders of the United Farm Workers Union met with California Senator Adam Schiff in the city of Delano this weekend. They were there to meet with families of loved ones who were recently deported. Two UFW members were among those detained and later deported during a surprise raid in Kern County last month. The UFW says its two members had each worked on Valley Farms for at least 15 years. It's unclear if they had criminal histories. The UFW says its two members had each worked on Valley Farms for at least 15 years. It's unclear if they had criminal histories. The UFW alleges the men were pressured to sign their own deportation orders to Mexico. They left behind their wives and children.
Support for Central Valley Daily comes from the members of KVPR. Join at $8 or more per month and access ad-free NPR podcasts through NPR Plus. Give now at kvpr.org/donate.
And now to our main story. American society often feels divided, but sometimes even the most surprising things can bring us together. For a small Central Sierra Nevada community, residents recently found themselves rallying around an unlikely source. And now KVPR's Rachel Livinal reports residents are on the hunt for the next way to unite their community.
Christina McCarty is a longtime resident of Oakhurst. On a breezy morning, she walked me to the ghost of a landmark that used to stand tall.
It started over here. Whenever you got to the top, you could actually hear the echo. That was actually a pretty cool thing.
Its name was Mount Chipotle. Not an actual mountain, but a dirt pile in the parking lot of a shopping center. It was named for its neighboring fast food restaurant. It sat there for a year, then was flattened last month. But before it made a big splash.
And it may seem like a pile of dirt to some, but to others in Oakhurst, it's Mount Chipotle.
Mount Chipotle was created from the mind of one local who saw the dirt pile across from Chipotle.
Mount Chipotle was born from a series of short stories posted to Facebook in December. Larry Townsend compared the dirt mound to summits like Mount Everest. Then he climbed it, all 20 feet of it, and planted an American flag on top.
It was like a tongue-in-cheek thing. And everybody got into it, and the comments were just wonderful.
People set up a Christmas tree on top and held a concert there. One local even wrote it a country anthem.
Oh, Mount Chipotle, in our hearts you now reside.
And the attention wasn't just local. Holly Martinez owns a gift shop in Oakhurst called 7 Rivers Pickers.
I usually say it's like all the cool mall stores, and then you throw in a vintage store too.
It's stacked floor to ceiling with mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, dresses. Her biggest sellers are branded for the 2 big destinations just up the highway, Bass Lake and Yosemite National Park.
Oakhurst has always really been the gateway to Yosemite.
Though recently, she says Mount Chipotle was a smash hit.
So with our Mount Chipotle stuff, we sold out literally like as soon as I put it out there.
And in its prime time, she was getting t-shirt orders from across the country.
I was like, how did you even hear about this? Well, you didn't know it's on Good Morning America.
But a few weeks ago, the dirt was trucked away. The owners of the lot told KVPR its fame wasn't the reason, the weather was. Still, the mound left a legacy for locals like Christina McCarty.
So weird not being here now.
She says it brought back the kinship of a small town that had seemed to wither away during a tense election year.
I think a lot of people are on edge just all the time, and it doesn't matter if it's a town that only has 13,000 people or a town that has 1,300 people.
And even though many were sad to see it go, they also wanted it gone. It embarrassed the town. So this whole affair jump-started a greater mission: get rid of ugly landmarks.
See? It's just an eyesore.
A few miles up the highway, McCarty points to a giant green construction fence around a rundown hotel. Some locals think this fence is the next thing they could rally behind.
But somebody had mentioned, like, just putting a lover's lock right here.
Like a famous bridge in Paris, the fence could be covered in padlocks symbolizing everlasting love. She says the love locks could create unity and maybe make Oakhurst a destination.
If it's gathering the attention of people outside of here, then it has the potential to gather the attention of the amount of people it needs to grab.
Just like Mount Chipotle did. For KVPR News, I'm Rachel Livinal.
And Rachel joins me to talk about her reporting a little further. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, Liz.
So first, I'm curious, Rachel, when you were at that gift shop, was there a particular Mount Chipotle merch item that was your favorite?
Yeah, they didn't have it out there, but Holly's husband, he took me to the back to show me how they make the merch in-house, and he made this special Mount Chipotle shirt with the Grinch on the mountain. I thought that was really cool, and I totally would have taken that if I wasn't reporting.
And during your reporting in the Oakhurst area, did you learn anything about the community that you maybe didn't know before?
Yeah, I mean, before reporting, I really didn't know anything about this town. I don't even know if I've ever driven past it on the way to Yosemite. But in the foothills, I think if we don't live there, we tend to believe that residents are kind of like a monolith, but they're really not. They too struggle with political polarization and other things that have caused tension or distance in recent years. Also, I learned that they have a long history of rallying behind things the community really cares about. A few years ago, there was a movie theater that almost shut down, and the community rallied behind that and kept that in place. And also, this mountain and the need for community was just one of those things that they rally behind.
In your story, you spoke with Larry Townsend. He started the whole Mount Chipotle trend after making some posts on Facebook. Why do you think his posts caught so much traction?
Yeah, Larry is kind of seen as the town storyteller. He's been making stories about different animals at Bass Lake. He names them and everything because he works there in the summers, and I think he just goes there often and takes photos and stuff. But I think they see him as kind of the pinnacle of imagination in the town, and this time they followed along.
What else have you heard from residents in the weeks since the destruction of the mound? How are they feeling now that the mound has been gone for several weeks?
Yeah, I think people are sad, but they're moving on. They're either remembering it and just looking back fondly, or they're looking for the next Mount Chipotle. So I've seen a lot of pushes to remember the mountain. On Facebook, people are still selling merch. Holly is now trying to sell special Oakhurst shirts. She's been wanting to do that for a while, and I think that was the push for that. I saw a post about making Mount Chipotle into a book. There's been talk of course, the green construction fence I mentioned. And then there's another mound somewhere nearby that someone mentioned making the next Mount Chipotle. So there's been lots of different ways that people have been trying to keep the legacy going.
Anything else you'd like to add, Rachel?
Yeah, I feel like with the flurry of news lately, I think no matter how you feel, we should look at this as kind of a sign of unity, that even in the midst of some division, we are all in some way the same.
KVPR's Rachel Livinal, thanks so much for your reporting.
Thank you, Liz.
And that does it for today. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
We could all use a little help navigating the news these days. The Consider This podcast wants to give you a hand. 6 days a week, we'll help you make sense of the day's biggest news story and what it means for you in less than 15 minutes. Listen now to the Consider This podcast from NPR.